Imagine just crossing off a single line item on your business ledger and boom, you've instantly saved $105,000. Seriously, no strings attached. That is exactly what one single farm achieved just by changing how they bought their fertilizer, shifting from standard retail over to bulk wholesale. It's a staggering number, right? But it instantly sets the stage for the incredible financial scale and the really high-stakes economics of modern agriculture. We're not talking about a quaint little backyard garden here. We are talking about massive, finely tuned efficiency engines where absolutely every dollar and every acre counts.
So welcome to this explainer. Today, we are tearing into the anatomy of a mega farm. We're going to look at how large-scale commercial farming secures global wealth by achieving massive economies of scale, integrating global supply chains, and leveraging some seriously advanced technology. Basically, we're going to break down the actual mechanics of an industry that literally feeds the world while managing millions of dollars in capital and resources.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, what is commercial agriculture? Second, driving production through technology. Third, mastering the supply chain. Fourth, the rise of financialization. And finally, number 5, impacts on the future.
All right, let's dive right into part 1. What exactly is commercial agriculture?
Well, understanding this industry really starts with looking at the fundamental goal of the operation. Just contrast your traditional subsistence farming, where you're growing primarily to eat and, survive, with commercial agriculture, which is growing exclusively for global markets. Every single decision made on a commercial farm is entirely focused on for-sale production and maximizing those profit margins. It's a highly specialized, totally market-driven enterprise designed from the ground up for massive output.
And to function as a high-volume efficiency engine, commercial agriculture requires a few core components. First, vast land usage to achieve those crucial economies of scale. Spreading the cost of highly expensive machinery and land over thousands of acres lowers the per-unit cost of every single crop grown. Throw in heavy capital investment, high-yielding varieties of seeds, and year-round production capabilities, and these megafarms become largely insulated from the seasonal whims of nature that smaller operations depend on.
Moving right along to Section 2, driving production through technology.
So, pretty much everything on a modern farm revolves around what's called precision agriculture. By definition, this means observing, measuring, and responding to variability in crops to optimize returns and preserve resources. But what does that mean in simple terms? It means using data to give plants exactly what they need, exactly when they need it, not a drop or an ounce more. This is the absolute critical driver of modern farm efficiency and rigorous cost control.
Out in the dirt, this data-driven approach literally looks like science fiction. You have GPS-guided tractors navigating fields with pinpoint accuracy just to avoid overlapping seeds. You've got soil moisture sensors and agricultural drones beaming down real-time data analytics, and automated robotic weeders roaming the rows. These aren't just cool gadgets to show off. They dramatically slash manual labor needs and pretty much guarantee higher yields because farmers can apply inputs at highly optimized rates.
And to really wrap your head around the real-world impact of this tech, just look at a vital resource like water. Drip irrigation systems deliver water directly to the root zone of the plant. This reduces overall water usage by a massive 30 to 60% compared to traditional methods. So you aren't just conserving water here, you are significantly lowering your operating costs by pumping way less of it. It's a perfect example of how precision technology simultaneously saves money and conserves vital resources.
Okay, on to Section 3, mastering the supply chain.
Let's circle back to that wild math from the very beginning of the explainer. Buying MAP fertilizer at retail costs roughly $1,200 per ton. But by bypassing the middleman and buying wholesale in massive bulk, one farm secured a price of just $500 per ton. Now, when you need 150 tons just to replace the nutrients taken from the soil during a big harvest, that $700 per ton difference results in, you guessed it, a staggering $105,000 in savings on just one single input. This is exactly how bulk purchasing unlocks deep wholesale discounts and fiercely protects those profit margins.
But it's not just about buying in bulk. These farms use incredibly advanced supply chain strategies to control their entire ecosystem. On the field, this includes integrated pest management and strategic crop rotation to maintain long-term soil health and, frankly, reduced reliance on super expensive synthetic chemicals. Off the field, it involves vital financial strategies, like forward contracts to lock in buyers and prices early, which protects the farm against sudden market drops. Plus, direct marketing lets them bypass intermediaries altogether, giving them crucial vertical control. Now, mastering that supply chain absolutely means mitigating catastrophic risk too.
Consider this wild stat. In 2024, an overwhelming 89% of major U.S. crop acreage was insured. That leaves only 11% completely exposed. When a single season's failure could mean millions of dollars lost to unpredictable weather or sudden pests, having crop insurance isn't just a nice-to-have, it is an absolute necessity to protect those thin margins.
Which brings us to Section 4, the rise of financialization.
There's a really fascinating observation from the Agricultural and Rural Convention. They state, in the current phase of financialization of agriculture, more and more large farms are adopting the status of corporation in order to attract external capital. This is a monumental shift. We are now seeing non-agricultural actors, think massive investment funds and insurance companies, stepping directly into the farming space, prioritizing pure returns on investment above all else.
So how does this actually work in practice? It's often called the corporate share pathway. Step 1, a farm adopts corporate status. Step 2, external investors purchase shares in that corporation rather than going out and buying the land directly. This triggers Step 3, a huge influx of external capital to fund those crazy high-tech upgrades and land grabs we talked about earlier. And finally, Step 4, the profits generated by the farm are skimmed off and extracted by those off-site investors. To really grasp the sheer scale of this trend, just look at France. In a single year, the sale of corporate shares accounted for the transfer of 185,000 hectares of agricultural land. That is nearly the total amount of all agricultural land sold in the entire country that year. By selling shares instead of physical property, outside capital can effectively bypass local land markets entirely. It's a massive loophole. And finally, Section 5, impacts on the future. Now, objectively speaking, this influx of external capital does carry some very real documented consequences. First up is a distinct lack of land ownership transparency. When farms are owned by financial corporations, tracking down the actual individuals who own the land becomes incredibly difficult, which often circumvents local regulations. Furthermore, it severely impedes generational transitions. Let's face it, new, younger farmers are just completely priced out by this corporate capital. Ultimately, this leads to an over-reliance on salaried labor, which shifts wealth away from local communities straight to distant shareholders.
To address these specific issues, several regulatory solutions have been proposed by various groups. These include mandatory transparency obligations, so corporate ownership is fully public, and requiring land agency authorizations before any corporate agricultural shares can be transferred. There's also a major push right now for Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, reform in Europe. Specifically, they're looking at changing the subsidy model so that government funds are paid directly in proportion to the number of people actually working on a farm, rather than just the raw number of hectares owned, aiming to balance the scales a bit.
All of this leaves us at a really fascinating and critical crossroads for global food production. On one hand, massive commercial efficiency and advanced technology give us this unprecedented ability to feed billions of people and create incredible wealth. But on the other hand, as all this external capital flows in, it's undeniably changing the very fabric of land access and rural communities. So, as agriculture continues to scale up at this lightning pace, who will actually own the farms of the future? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it provided a clear, structured look into the absolute powerhouse engine that is commercial agriculture. See you next time.